From the headquarters of the American Radio Relay League in Newington, Connecticut, this is ARRL Audio News for Friday, March 24th, 2017. This program is produced by the ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio, and features news highlights compiled from the ARRL letter, found on the web at arrl.org. I'm Sean Kutzko, KX9X.
And I'm your co-host, Carla Pereira.
In this week's report, ARRL reiterates its case for a new band at 5 megahertz.
ARRL seeking synergy with the maker movement.
And be on the lookout for special event stations with odd call signs this year.
Those stories and others, plus Bruce Page, KK5DO, with this week's satellite update, all coming up now.
Hi, I'm ARRL member Lou Lewis, W8OEL from Fairborn, Ohio, and you're listening to ARRL Audio News.
In comments filed on March 20th with the FCC on its own January petition for rulemaking, RM11785, ARRL reiterated its case for a contiguous secondary 15 kHz wide 60-meter band of 5351.5 to 5366.5 kHz, in addition to the 4 existing discrete 60-meter channels that fall outside the requested band, with a permitted power level of 100 watts EIRP and retention of current operating rules. More than 5 dozen comments, all supporting the proposed allocation, were filed on the League's petition. While some suggested more spectrum or higher power, ARRL said in its comments that it does not at this time favor any changes in its initial request for a new band. The League proposal would implement a portion of the final acts of World Radio Communication Conference 2015 that provided for a secondary international amateur allocation of 5351.5 to 5366.5 kHz at a maximum of 15 watts EIRP. Each component of this proposal is intended to maximize spectral efficiency by permitting amateurs to operate throughout a band as conditions and availability warrant, to give primary service operations certainty as to where radio amateurs will be located within the broader fixed and mobile service band between 5250 and 5450 kHz, and it protects those primary users with the same successful interference avoidance techniques and protocols that have been used for the past 15 years domestically, with which radio amateurs have the technical training and experience to comply, ARRL asserted in its comments. The League said the WRC-15 power limit of 15 watts EIRP would render the band unsuitable for emergency communication, especially between the U.S. mainland and the Caribbean basin during summer storms and hurricane season, when atmospheric noise can be severe. ARRL said the most important thing is to have the FCC grant an allocation before offering initiatives to alter the plan it proposed in January. It urged the FCC to adopt rule changes it proposed at the earliest possible time, if at all possible, in advance of the 2017 hurricane season.
ARRL is reaching out to members of the maker movement to explore avenues of cooperation and collaboration, and perhaps to recruit some new radio amateurs. Considered an extension of the arts and crafts tradition, the maker movement gained its own magazine, Make, in 2005. The philosophy of the maker movement is reminiscent of an era when radio amateurs built their own equipment rather than buying it off of the shelf. Makers have tended to focus on such areas as electronics and computers, robotics, 3D printing, metal and woodworking, and even amateur radio, among other avocations. Maker fairs in the U.S. have attracted thousands more attendees than even the largest Hamfest. The Hamvention of the maker movement takes place in New York City in late September, and ARRL will have a presence at maker fairs in the Bay Area in May and in Chicago later this year. ARRL CEO Tom Gallagher, NY2RF, wrote in his April QST Second Century editorial, Make It Happen, that he considers makers as, quote, the next generation of hams, unquote. Gallagher suggests radio amateurs consider attending maker fairs, not only to promote and give a presence to amateur radio, but to learn what they have in common with makers, many of whom already are licensees.
Remote antenna tuners is the topic of the just-released episode of the ARRL The Doctor Is In podcast. Sponsored by DX Engineering, ARRL The Doctor Is In is an informative discussion of all things technical. Listen on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, whenever and wherever you like. Every 2 weeks, your host, QST Editor-in-Chief Steve Ford, WB8IMY, and the doctor himself, Joel Hallis, W1ZR, will discuss a broad range of technical topics. You can also email your questions to doctor@arrl.org, and the doctor may answer them in a future podcast. Enjoy ARRL The Doctor Is In on Apple iTunes or by using your iPhone or iPad podcast app. You can also listen online at Blueberry or at Stitcher and through the free Stitcher app for iOS, Kindle, or Android devices.
Online, via podcast, and on repeaters around the world, you're listening to ARRL Audio News.
Now, with this week's satellite update, here's Bruce Page, KK5DO.
CubeSat has 2 satellites going up on March 31st. They will both have a UV sideband and CW linear transponder. CAS 4A will have a downlink on 145.870 MHz and an uplink on 435.220 MHz. CAS 4B will be on 145.925 MHz downlink and 435.280 MHz for the uplink. The frequencies have been coordinated with the IARU Satellite Frequency Coordination Panel. Thanks to AMSAT UK and the AMSAT News Service for this story. If you are an educator and would like to arrange an ARRS contact between January 1st and June 30th, 2018, you have until April 15th of this year to submit your proposal. There's a lot of work involved in an ARRS contact, and time is of the essence. Visit ARRL.org for more information. Thanks to AMSAT, ARRS, and the ARRL for this story. This is Bruce Page, KK5DO, for the ARRL Audio News.
The University of Virginia reports that some of its engineering students are among those at other Commonwealth schools working on amateur radio satellites and matching ground stations to track them and collect data. UVA said its student-built satellite is set to go into space late next year aboard an International Space Station resupply vehicle for later deployment from the ISS. The UVA project will be part of a joint mission with other Virginia universities to conduct atmospheric density studies to gain a better understanding regarding the rates at which low-orbiting spacecraft slow down and ultimately leave orbit when encountering the drag of the atmosphere's outer edges. We're building our own version of NASA's mission control to communicate with our own spacecraft, said Christopher Goyne, a mechanical and aerospace engineering professor who serves as faculty advisor for the UVA project. Our students have a lot of work to accomplish prior to launch and during the 6 to 12-month flight mission. The CubeSat, which will operate in the 70-centimeter amateur band, will be the first developed and flown by UVA. Assembly and testing will be completed this summer. UVA's CubeSat is one in a constellation of 3 spacecraft being designed and built by students at UVA, Virginia Tech, and Old Dominion University through the Virginia Space Grant Consortium. Hampton University is also collaborating. Each university will operate its own ground station, and students will communicate with each other throughout the mission. They are also collaborating on many other aspects of the project. Goyne's group recently began work to construct the ground station, with assistance from the UVA Amateur Radio Club, W4UVA. The Amateur Radio Club will provide technical expertise and assist in the operation of the ground station.
Motorola Solutions has filed complaints in federal court alleging that Hytera Communications digital mobile radio, or DMR, products employ techniques and systems that infringe on Motorola Solutions' patents and trade secrets. Already known for its land mobile radio service products, Hytera entered the amateur radio DMR market last year. Motorola alleges that proprietary and patented information was taken illegally by 3 former company engineers who now work for Hytera as part of a deliberate scheme to steal and copy its technology. The 3 former Motorola engineers all signed non-disclosure agreements agreeing to treat all Motorola trade secrets as confidential when they left the company to assume similar positions with Hytera. According to the lawsuit, none of the 3 disclosed beforehand that they intended to go to work for Hytera. Motorola contends that its digital radio products were rendering Hytera's analog systems obsolete, and rather than develop its own digital products, Hytera stole Motorola's ideas, its attorneys allege. Motorola said technology features it developed started showing up in Hytera products soon after Hytera began hiring engineers who had left Motorola in 2008, according to the lawsuit. In a statement, Hytera, headquartered in Shenzhen, China, said it adheres to high ethical standards and complies with the laws and regulations in markets where we operate, and firmly believes that its business practices and operations will be fully vindicated.
The owners of certain amateur radio towers have a friend in FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly, who feels that tower marking provisions required under the FAA Extension, Safety, and Security Act of 2016, now Public Law 114-190, could use tweaks. In a March 10 blog post, O'Reilly expressed his belief that thousands of tower owners in the U.S. could face expensive, unnecessary retrofits, resulting from the law's unintended consequences. The new FAA law would impose additional marking requirements for a small number of amateur radio towers. However, O'Reilly said the section of the new law that requires improved physical markings and/or lighting on towers of between 50 and 200 feet is too broad. O'Reilly said that the provisions appear intended to address dangers to small, low-flying aircraft, such as crop dusters, from temporary meteorological testing towers, among others, but that if implemented literally, the provision will force expensive retrofits to potentially 50,000 existing towers, including cell and broadcast station towers, and all new towers meeting the law's broad definition, all with little gain to air safety, he said. While some state crop duster laws have exempted amateur radio towers, the federal legislation does not. ARRL General Counsel Chris Imlay, W3KD, has said, however, that the list of exemptions in the federal legislation restricts the application of the new rules to a very small subset of amateur radio towers. ARRL hopes to meet with FAA officials to discuss the issue.
Hi, I'm ARRL Life member Sid Caesar, NH7C, from Rockville, Maryland, and you're listening to the ARRL Audio News.
And finally, special event stations sporting unusual call signs are or will be on the air throughout 2017. From Canada's Yukon Territory, keep an ear open for XO1X, now on the air for the remainder of 2017, with plans to be active March 25th through the 27th for the CQ Worldwide WPX phone contest. The special call sign prefix is permitted as part of Canada's sesquicentennial celebration, as is XK150 Yukon, another Yukon Can-Am Contest Club call sign for the sesquicentennial, operating VY1JA remotely. Operators will include Jerry Hull, W1VE, Kerry Rubenfeld, VE4EA, and others. The XO1 prefix has not been on the air in 35 years, said Hull. OE17 Atom will be active from Austria April 21st and 22nd, operating on HF, VHF, and UHF from the only nuclear power plant that never was. The station will be set up inside the reactor hall and control room, and there will be a live video stream. The Zwendendorf nuclear power plant was never run, owing to the outcome of a national referendum. From Croatia, 9A21 RBM, on the air April 1st through 15th, will commemorate the 21st anniversary of the plane crash near Dubrovnik in 1996 that claimed the lives of U.S. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 34 others. Another pending special event with an atomic connection is VI5 Antler, operating from Maralinga Village in South Australia, which is planned for September 14th through October 9th. That area of Northwest and South Australia is where the British carried out atomic tests in 1957 under the code name Project Antler. Organizers say that this may be the first ham radio activity from the Maralinga Section 200 restricted area since 1957.
And that concludes ARRL Audio News for this week. Our thanks to all contributors to this week's report. ARRL Audio News is produced by the American Radio Relay League, the National Association for Amateur Radio. For more information on amateur radio or the ARRL, visit us on the web at arrl.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching for ARRL. If you have a question or comment about audio news, email us at audionews@arrl.org. This program is copyright 2017 ARRL, all rights reserved. Until next week, I'm Carla Pereira.
And I'm Sean Kutzko, KX9X 73, and thanks for listening.